Title: A Forbidden True. The house was quiet, too quiet. Olivia sat at the kitchen table, idly stirring her tea as the steam curled up and disappeared into the air. She knew she had crossed a line she never even realized existed until it had already been shattered. It had started innocently. Late-night conversations, moments of laughter, stolen glances that lingered too long. Her stepfather, Daniel, had always been kind to her, always understanding in a way her mother never was. He listened when she spoke, never dismissing her thoughts the way her mother did. Somewhere along the way, the boundaries blurred. And one night, when her mother was away on a business trip, they both gave in to something neither of them wanted to name. Olivia didn't regret it. That was the strangest part. The world would tell her she should, that she had done something unforgivable, but it didn't feel that way. What she regretted was the guilt that came after, the tension that settled over the house like an unspoken truth neither of them could escape. The door creaked open, and her mother, Evelyn, walked in, placing her purse on the counter with a sigh. "Olivia, we need to talk." Olivia looked up, feigning innocence. "About what?" Evelyn's expression was tight, her eyes sharp. "You've been different lately. Secretive." "And Daniel," she hesitated, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Something's off." Olivia's fingers tightened around her teacup. "Maybe you're just imagining things." Her mother scoffed. "I know you, Olivia. And I know when someone is lying to me." A tense silence settled between them. Olivia could feel her heartbeat in her throat. The weight of the secret pressed against her chest, suffocating. Then something snapped. The resentment, the years of being controlled, the feeling of never being enough. It all crashed over her like a tidal wave. She stood up, leveling her gaze at her mother. "You want the truth." "Fine. Daniel and I have been together." Evelyn froze. Her breath hitched, her hand gripping the counter for support. "You're lying." "I'm not. And honestly, he treats me better than you ever have." The words came out harsher than she intended, but she didn't take them back. Evelyn's face drained of color. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, and for a moment, Olivia saw something in her eyes she had never seen before. Fear. And then, just as suddenly, her mother clutched her chest, gasping for breath. "Mom!" Olivia's anger melted into panic as she rushed to her side. Evelyn's knees buckled. Call an ambulance." She wheezed before collapsing onto the cold kitchen floor. Daniel appeared in the doorway, his face pale as he took in the scene. Without hesitation, he grabbed the phone and dialed emergency services. Olivia knelt beside her mother, her hands trembling. She had wanted to be free of her control, to finally have her own voice, but not like this. Never like this. As the sirens wailed in the distance, she realized that no matter what happened next, life as she knew it was over. Part 2. The sirens grew louder, piercing the silence of the night. Olivia knelt beside her mother, pressing her hands against Evelyn's clammy skin, her own fingers trembling. She had never imagined it would end like this. Daniel stood frozen in the doorway, his face drained of color, gripping the phone as the emergency operator spoke on the other end. "They're on their way," he muttered, his voice hollow. Olivia barely heard him. She was too focused on the way her mother's breaths came in short, ragged gasps. Her eyes filled with something Olivia couldn't decipher. Pain? Betrayal? Disbelief? Maybe all three. "Mom, stay with me," she whispered, her anger from minutes ago replaced by pure, raw fear. Evelyn's lips parted, as if she wanted to say something, but no words came out. Her body trembled violently before her head lolled to the side. Olivia's heart clenched. "No, no, no. Mom." She shook her lightly, but there was no response. The paramedics burst through the door moments later, pushing Olivia aside as they surrounded her mother. Everything became a blur. The flashing lights, the shouts, the firm grip of Daniel's hand on her shoulder as they watched Evelyn being lifted onto the stretcher. Olivia tried to follow, but a paramedic blocked her path. "Are you family?" "She's my mother," Olivia snapped, her voice shaking. The medic gave her a pitying look. Then come with us. But be prepared for anything. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and despair. Olivia and Daniel sat in the waiting room, neither of them speaking. She felt cold, like all the warmth in her body had drained out the moment they wheeled Evelyn away. Daniel finally broke the silence. She's strong. She'll pull through. Olivia turned to him, her eyes dark with guilt. And if she doesn't? Her voice cracked. It's my fault. He reached for her hand, squeezing it. No, Olivia. This isn't your fault. You just told her the truth. And that truth might have killed her, she whispered, her stomach twisting. Before Daniel could respond, a doctor approached. Evelyn Carter's family. Olivia shot up from her seat. Yes. How is she? The doctor sighed. She's stable for now, but the heart attack was severe. She's unconscious, and we don't know when she'll wake up. We need to keep monitoring her closely. Olivia swayed slightly, as if the weight of the words had physically hit her. Can I see her? The doctor hesitated. Only for a few minutes. Stepping into the dimly lit hospital room, Olivia felt like she was suffocating. Her mother lay motionless, wires and tubes snaking around her body. The beeping of the monitors was the only sign she was still alive. She sat beside the bed, gripping her mother's frail hand. Mom, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. A tear slipped down her cheek. The guilt was suffocating. What if her mother never woke up? What if the last words she ever heard were Olivia's cruel confession? Daniel stepped inside, lingering at the door. You should get some rest. She shook her head. I can't leave her. He sighed, stepping closer. Then I'll stay with you. She wanted to push him away, to blame him for this, but deep down she knew the truth. They were both guilty. And now they would both have to live with the consequences. The hours passed slowly. Olivia sat motionless beside her mother's hospital bed, staring at the slow rise and fall of Evelyn's chest. The guilt weighed on her like an anchor, dragging her deeper into regret. Daniel stood by the window, his silhouette outlined by the dim hospital light. You should go home, get some sleep, he said quietly. No, Olivia whispered. I need to be here when she wakes up. If she wakes up. Silence stretched between them. There were no more words left to say. Everything had already been shattered. Then a sound. A low, raspy breath. Olivia's eyes snapped to her mother as Evelyn's fingers twitched. Her eyelids fluttered, and then slowly she opened her eyes. Weak but alive. Mom. Olivia choked out, gripping her hand. Evelyn's gaze shifted to her, and for a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then her lips parted. I know. She rasped. I always knew. Olivia's breath hitched. What? Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. But I never thought you'd tell me like that. A sob escaped Olivia's throat. Mom, Evelyn squeezed her hand, weak but firm. It's done, Olivia. What's broken can't be undone. But you're my daughter. And I will always love you. Tears streamed down Olivia's face. It wasn't forgiveness. Not entirely. But it was something. Daniel turned away, his expression unreadable. The damage was done, and they all knew there was no going back. As the morning light crept into the room, Olivia finally exhaled, realizing that while this chapter was closing, the weight of their choices would never fully fade.